Great to have you with us on a Sunday morning. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Well, she told us earlier she would want to be the Prime Minister one day and is confident that she will be. But to do that, Kemi Badenoch will have to perform what looks right now like something of a political miracle. She took charge of the Conservatives back in November, and in January, after a couple of months, her party was neck and neck with Reform. You can see them in the turquoise there and behind the Labour Party. But as the local elections got closer, Nigel Farage's group surged into the lead. You can see the turquoise line going up. And since those local elections, the polls have got even worse for Kemi Badenoch. So what's going on? She's with us in the studio this morning. Welcome to you. Let's talk first of all about what is going on politically. You said recently it takes about 2 years for people to stop being angry. Does that mean then you think it will be 2 years before you get close to overtaking Labour and close to overtaking Reform, who seem to be the biggest challenger at the moment?
It's certainly going to take some time because we just lost an election. We had a historic defeat. And the public don't just come rushing back to the opposition. What is happening is that the government is doing so badly that people are going to challenger parties, to protest parties. And I'm using this time to make sure that we develop a credible agenda. I could have come out rushing out with policies to chase the polls, but that's the wrong thing to do. We need to start doing the right thing, avoid easy answers and focus on delivering a proposition that will change this country for the better.
But does that mean 2 years then? Do you expect it will take 2 years before you start to see the gap narrow?
I can't say how long it will take. I have been told that it takes about 2 years for people to move on from a government that has just lost. But I need to use this time as wisely as possible. And that means rebuilding my party, but also making sure that we hold the government to account, that we expose some of the dishonesty and the failings which they have had. This week has been an extraordinary week. I was speaking to fishermen on Thursday. They think that they've been absolutely sold out. They think they're going to have to give up their businesses. You look at what's happened with Chagos, £30 billion giveaway, the territory that was already ours. You look at the Winterfield partial U-turn. This is a government in chaos.
But when it comes to your plans, Robert Jenrick, who's in your shadow team, he ran against you for the leadership. He said, you have to move fast. He said, I do think you've got to get moving. That's not a criticism, he went on to say, but it's self-evident. You have to move fast or else you create a vacuum others will step into. Have you got that long?
There is time, but there is not much time. He is right. We do have to move fast, but move fast to do the right thing. Right now, we have other parties that are throwing out easy answers, uncosted. They don't have a credible plan. They're just telling people what they think they want to hear. That is going to destroy this country if we allow that to happen. We have an economy where inflation is up, unemployment is increasing, growth is disappearing. We need to have a plan to bring back growth and bring back the wealth of this country.
But you need to beat, at the moment, the polls show very clearly, the person you need to beat is Nigel Farage, who is getting nearly double your support in the polls. Everything at the moment suggests he is your main challenger on the right. We know he's also trying to take former Labour voters, but he's mainly taking from the right. What is he getting wrong?
So he is saying to people that he can do things that he cannot do. They're easy messages, easy answers. We need to make sure that we defeat every party. We are now in a multi-party situation because there is so much apathy and disillusionment with politics. And the message that I have is one that is going to be harder for many people who just want easy answers. But what I have said is we're going to do this the right way. We're going to have a credible plan. We've come out with policies on migration that are different to what we had before. That's something that needs to be toughened up. We've come out with policies on net zero, for example, how we're going to change the direction on that. We don't want the country to be bankrupt. What I will not do is come out and just tell people anything, throw out lots of policies when I know that they won't work. And much of this takes time to work out. We don't have much time. We do need to move quickly. But what the Conservative Party stands for is all the men and women out there who work hard, who aren't seeing a return on the work that they're doing, who are finding the cost of living increasing, life is too tough. Who is going to speak up for them? We are.
But in terms of particular policies, let's take one of them. Nigel Farage has said he would restore winter fuel allowance to every pensioner. He said he would pay for that by closing asylum hotels, which are forecast to cost many more billions than they were originally. So would you, if you make it to Downing Street, restore winter fuel allowance for everyone?
Laura, that's what I've been saying right now. We need to restore it right now. People are asking about what we would do.
To absolutely every pensioner.
What Labour did was a big mess. They've made a mess and now they have to clean it up. We would never have taken the winter fuel allowance away. I want to be very clear on that. We kept it for 14 years. We came into government in 2010. There was pensioner, with increased pensioner poverty. We brought in the triple lock. We looked after pensioners. That's what our party does. So no, we would not have done what Labour did. They've made a mess. They came in with jobs taxes. They gave lots of pay rises to the public sector with no reforms whatsoever. And now the economy is doing badly. They're trying to clean up their mess.
I want you to be really explicit. If you were back in power, is it your policy that you would give back winter fuel allowance to absolutely everybody, millionaire, pensioners, some of the wealthiest people in the country? They would all get it back.
Right, Laura, I'm not in government. I do not have access to all of the numbers. Right now, what I saw when we left government last year, right now, we should just restore it. There is no system at the moment to figure out how to stop millionaires from getting it. For what it's worth, I don't think the people who are millionaires should get it. But right now, we have been voting in Parliament to restore the winter fuel payment. We have been voting for that. Labour needs to do that.
But they have said that
they're going to have a partial return. We don't know whether we're going to get that at the end of this year or not. The announcement that they made about a fiscal event, I heard Angela, it's not true. They removed the winter fuel payment outside a fiscal event so they can bring it back. And I want to be very clear on that. We would not have taken it away from anyone.
But I'm interested because you said there you don't think that millionaire pensioners should get it. So in future, do you see a situation where you will be saying to the country, yeah, look, most pensioners should get it, that's fine, we would give that back, but actually the very wealthiest shouldn't?
That's the direction of travel, yes, but we don't have a system that can do that. That's one of the things that needs fixing. Our system isn't able to stop millionaires from getting the winter fuel payment. Right now, my concern is all of those people who I've been meeting who need the winter fuel payment and cannot get it. And I don't know what Labour's going to do. They don't know how much it's going to cost. They've made a mess and they don't know how to fix
about that. All of these conversations are happening in the context of the spending review, which was a really important moment for any government that's coming in a couple of weeks. I know on point of principle, you've said to us before you'd like to see a smaller state and lower taxes, but where do you think public spending should be cut in that review?
So we've talked about how our welfare budget is too high. We are spending now £100 billion every year on the interest on our debt. We are not living within our means. We are the party of sound money and fiscal responsibility. We need to live within our means. And we talked about how we would make about £12 billion of welfare savings. But at the end of the day, Laura, I cannot set out a full fiscal plan, on a Sunday morning breakfast show. We don't have access to what the Treasury is doing. They are making things worse. The best way we can fix our economy is to grow it. It is not government that creates growth, it's business. And that means we need to stop hammering businesses with jobs taxes and all sorts of costs, which means that they are closing. People are losing their jobs.
But you're willing to say that you would like to see more money come out from the welfare budget. Where else do you think could be cut? On point of principle, I'm not asking for a detailed plan, I'm asking for principle.
The principle is that the government cannot do everything. We've heard Keir Starmer reportedly and Nigel Farage say that they will they will remove the two-child benefit cap. This is nonsense. We put that cap in at a time when the economy was in a better place. We cannot afford that. People are just making promises, throwing out all sorts of things to please people when they won't be delivered. And that is why we have so much apathy. That's why the public are angry, because they're sick and tired of politicians who make promises that they cannot deliver, and I will not do that.
I want to talk about two other issues in the short time we have today. We've just asked Angela Rayner about the Prime Minister's statement condemning some of Israel's conduct of the war in Gaza and the blockade on aid. Your response to that statement was to say that he was careless. What did you mean by that?
Well, look at the context we are in. There are 58 hostages who have still not been returned to Israel. We want to see a two-state solution, but we cannot have a terrorist state running one of those. And the third thing is that Israel is at war, and we need to make sure that the war that they're having, which is a proxy war with Iran, is not one that damages our national interests. Iran is not our ally. They tried to carry out a terrorist attack on the Israeli embassy in London. This is a week where we saw two embassy members in DC killed. So this is a very fraught situation. We have to be very careful about what it is they say.
But are you saying then that a British Prime Minister ought not to look at a blockade of aid, ought not to look at tens of thousands people being killed in a conflict, ought not to listen to the UN chief saying that more than 1 million people are at risk of starvation? he ought not to say anything about
No,
that?
what I am saying is that you should do it in a way that doesn't have Hamas cheering. Hamas praised that statement. That is a terrorist group. That's not whose side we're on. Israel is an ally. That doesn't mean they're perfect. It doesn't mean that everything they've been doing is right. But if you want to have that sort of conversation, you do what we did in government, which was behind closed doors, and you put the pressure on behind.
So it's wrong to put public statements
sending
out.
a signal to Hamas like that, in my view, does not show that we're on the right side.
But
we should not have terrorists cheering. We should not have terrorists cheering about statements that our Prime Minister has made. And that's why I said it was careless.
I just wonder, is there anything that the Israeli government could do that you would then criticise publicly?
I have made criticisms before. We've talked about making sure that the people who need aid get it. That is something that they responded to. But let's remember, less than 2 years ago, hundreds of people at a music festival butchered, massacred. We're still waiting for 58 hostages. What we need to do is get a ceasefire. And the one thing that will create that ceasefire is getting those 58 people back home to Israel.
I want to just ask you about a question that's an issue reported in the Sunday Times this morning. They've reported they've seen memos that show you ignored security advice when you were in the cabinet minister, when you chose to use a Jaguar car and a driver that was not part of the official government car service. Now, this might sound maybe a bit frivolous, but actually security for ministers is a vitally important issue. So why did you ignore security advice?
I never ignored security advice. The driver was security cleared, actually recommended by GCS. It was a contract that had been in place for about 5 years, and I renewed that contract. A memo was sent by someone who was unfamiliar with the contract, asking about security concerns, and other civil servants said there were no security concerns, and that's the end of the matter. But what is destructive is that someone leaks a memo without seeing the full picture. So I don't even have access to those documents, but I do remember. Very destructive. I would never, ever, ever put myself in a situation where security was reduced, and also it would not have been allowed in the first place. There is no way that the department would have allowed me to be carrying official secret documents in a car that wasn't security cleared. It's a nonsense story.
Okay, Kemi Badenoch, thank you very much indeed, Leader of the Opposition. Always great to have you with us on a Sunday morning. Thank you very much indeed. And of course, remember, we want to know what's on your mind. What do you think of what you've heard from our politicians this morning?